Hello. Do you have anything that you want to say? It's time.
Is that where you want to start?
I mean, I just think that, like, if you're an Eagles fan, you don't think that Sirianni should be fired. You're a complete idiot.
Oh, I have plenty to say about Sirianni at this point. For starters, if he doesn't do anything from a coaching perspective, i.e., calling plays on offense or calling plays on defense, your only other job should be at least making sure that your guys are mentally and physically ready to go out there and play football on Sunday. And if you're not doing that, then I don't know what he's doing as a head coach. He's basically just a puppet for the media at this point, is kind of what it seems like, because that performance was uninspired. It was lazy. It was uninterested and embarrassing. It was really bad football. And I think if you're Nick Sirianni, you have to look in the mirror, because that was absolutely a piss poor performance. If there's any game that you might have circled on the schedule, it's probably this one, because of how poorly you played down in Tampa in the playoffs last year. You want to come back and you want to win this game now that you're back down here. New season.
Last 3 years. Tampa Bay owns them.
Yeah. And at the very least, you got to come there prepared, and they were drastically unprepared for this football game.
So when we did our Eagles
injuries aside, that was it was really ugly.
Both teams had injuries. Both teams definitely had injuries. What I first want to say is, when we did our Eagles preview, I noted that the vibes were bad around this team, and you said that I was crazy. The vibes going into the season were bad, and now they're awful.
They're coming to life.
And another thing that I also said was, Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that needs to be in a perfect situation to be able to succeed. He needs to have the right coaching. I don't think it matters having all the talent all the time. Ultimately, Saquon was there in the backfield with him. I mean, you said it last week. We think he might be one of the most important players in all of football right now. The Eagles might be winless if it wasn't for him. So I am worried about that they are not surrounding Jalen Hurts with the coaching staff to help him at all, because he's just a guy who's going to be a product of the system no matter what. Ever since Shane Steichen has left, he has looked like a shell of himself, whether anybody likes to admit it or not. And I thought this past weekend was a very piss poor performance out of Jalen Hurts, out of everybody.
Listen, I think a lot of what you said is accurate. I think Jalen Hurts is just a normal NFL quarterback at this point in his career. It's looking more and more like the 2022 season was the outlier. I think Dan Orlovsky was right. He's been going on ESPN. I've been seeing clips of it saying we're not going to see that version of Jalen Hurts again. And I think he's spot on. Now, with that being said, I don't even think you need that version of Jalen Hurts to go out and win football games. But the version of Jalen Hurts that we saw on Sunday is not going to win you any games. Now, I get it. He didn't have three pretty important guys on the offensive side of the ball. But at the same time, I don't think Jalen is deserves to be in any type of conversation with like the top elite guys in the NFL. Like, he's not a guy that's going to make the surrounding players better. He's just not.
Hey, you yelled at me when I left him off my top 10 list to start the season.
I think looking at it now, that is fair.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like Josh Allen is a guy, and like Josh Allen is a guy that's going to go out there and he's going to elevate the rest of the guys on his team. Lamar Jackson. I think there might only be 3 of those guys that are in that level of quarterback play in the NFL at this point. But Jalen Hurts is far from that.
So you're already out on the $250 million contract that Jalen Hurts got.
I'm not going to say that I'm out on it because, like I said before, I don't even think you need Jalen Hurts to play at the level that he played at in 2022 in order to be a successful football team. However, everything else has to stay. Everybody has to like pretty much stay healthy. I think you need to have at least one guy out there that he trusts to throw the football to, in AJ or Devontae, because clearly he doesn't trust it to throw the football to anybody else on that team. Dallas Goedert here and there, but there's no trust between him and any of these other wide receivers on the team. You could just tell when you're watching that game. Another thing is when you don't have your two of your best players on offense. Why was the scheme not to figure out how to get Saquon Barkley the football as much as possible? I don't know if Nick Sirianni is still in these offensive meetings and still providing his 2 cents, and it's skewing what Kellen Moore is trying to do from an offensive perspective, because I've been seeing so many things from people that have watched Kellen Moore's offenses, and this is not how it's looked anywhere else. Now, that could just be the fact that Jalen's playing poorly, or the fact that there was 2 wide receivers that normally start that were injured. But at some point, if it is Nick Sirianni, get the fuck out of the way.
I don't know.
Let Kellen Moore coach the offense, because clearly Nick Sirianni can't do anything from an offensive perspective that's going to work. He can't even get these guys ready to go out there and play. I get it. It's hot. It's hot for everybody.
Yeah, that doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all. I think a conversation that me and you had at the beginning of the season was, at what point should they fire Sirianni? This will be a wasted year if they don't pull the trigger on him. I compared the situation to the Chargers, which a little different, but I was really trying to get at, when the head coach loses the locker room, there's no getting it back. Don't fake it. Don't do anything. And we saw a lot of that with Brandon Staley and the Chargers, and there was just like a stink on the football team. I felt the same exact way about the Eagles coming into the season. And this past weekend, I understand that you guys have people hurt. Everybody has people hurt. But you also have Jalen Hurts here paying $250 million. MVP candidate at one point, could have won you guys a Super Bowl. And then in the backfield, you have Saquon Barkley, probably one of the most important players in all of football. I don't really see much of an excuse there for me. It feels like you have everything. Yeah, I know that there was some offensive line injuries, this, that, and the third, but with those 2 guys alone, you should be able to go out there and at least look decent. Maybe not win the game, but look decent.
I mean, they didn't even have. There was a point at the second quarter where they had 0 yards on offense.
Yes.
That's inexcusable. I don't give a shit if you have Evan Shiley on your offensive line, 5 across.
Dude.
He was good in high school. Don't know what he did in college.
He had all
Sorry,
the tools.
Evan. You didn't deserve that straight bullet. But
he had all the tools, man.
You get my point here. They should have more than 0 yards against a Bucs defense who was also a little banged up. As far as not having Smitty and AJ Brown, I think that obviously makes a massive difference.
Oh yeah, no shit.
But my point was that even without those 2 guys, Jalen Hurts has to look a little bit better than what he did. It was terrible. I mean, you could tell that he didn't trust anybody. He didn't trust any of these receivers to throw the football to. And they just completely abandoned the game plan of getting Saquon Barkley the football. I just don't understand what it is. He ripped off a 60-yard run to start the second half, and barely saw the ball the rest of the game. I understand you're down and you have to throw it, but like your best chance of making somewhat of a comeback is getting the ball in his hands. And after they blocked that extra point to go down 2 scores, there was a little bit of life left, and they just completely pissed it away with the lack of pocket presence with that strip sack or strip, whatever you want to call it.
So what's going on in your head? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think needs to happen? What would you like to see happen? They're on a bye week this week. Is it real? I don't think he gets fired, but
No.
do you think that they should at least think about it and have the conversation?
I think they'll think about it, but I don't think it'll happen until the end of the season. I don't know. I just don't think that the Eagles never fire head coaches in the middle of the year. It usually happens at the end of the season. But also there should be a first time for everything. So
no doubt,
if this continues to spiral, I don't think you have a choice. I think if they come out here and they look pedestrian these next 4 games in October, I think that Sirianni's probably gone. They play the Browns, the Giants, the next 3 games in October. Sorry, they play the Browns, the Giants, and the Bengals, and then Jacksonville the first week in November. If they go 2-2 or 1-3, I don't really see a situation where he sticks around.
And
I don't even think I would want him to, because that's a stretch of 4 games that at the very least you should go 3-1 in.
Correct. But like, what has to, like, what do you like? How do you feel about the team right now? Like, is this a play? Like, is this a play? This is hands down, top to bottom, the most talented roster from an offensive perspective. And this really might not be a playoff team.
I am less worried about the offense than I am the defense. I think if you get everybody back healthy after the bye, I think you see the offense figured out a little bit more. I mean, we saw them in the first game put up 34 against the Giants, or sorry, the Packers, and they had everybody out there on the field. They're gonna have to score if they want to win these football games, because their defense is just not good enough. They have to do something schematically on defense that is different than what they've done in these first 4 games, because Slay and Quinyon Mitchell lining up 8 to 10 yards off the ball against these receivers is just death by 1,000 cuts.
They suck, dude.
That's just, a guy is washed when he goes out there and tweets his career stats after a loss.
Yeah,
you're officially washed at that point.
And then one last thing, where are we at on the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson watch? Because he lets up a touchdown every single week,
every game. I don't even know what to say about him at this point. Like, maybe just stay off Twitter and stop talking shit if you're gonna get cooked every game.
Fair. All right. We had to go over that. Let's go over $1 million picks, because listen, those videos will go up. I accidentally privated all of them. I was a little busy all day today. They will go up, so everything's gonna be backloaded. So this week I had 714.5 in the bank. I went with a CeeDee Lamb touchdown, $150K to win $315K cashed. Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdown, $150K to win $300K cashed. Colts money line, $100K to win $300K cashed. And then I have Titans money line plus 100K to win what I would win with that. And that is outstanding tonight. I lost on Packers -3 at $100K. It took him way too long to wake up. Jordan Love woke up like in the 4th quarter. And then I lost a $20,000 parlay with the Colts and the Green Bay Packers. So I went down to 94 grand placing all of those bets. And now I'm back over. And now in the positive for my starting million, I'm at $1,009,500. and with a bet still outstanding for the Titans tonight.
Hey, that's not a bad weekend.
You slept on me.
That's not a bad weekend.
You slept on me. Those two 150K plays on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown and the Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdown were locks.
I did not sleep on either one of those picks.
One regret that I have is not sticking with my gut and taking the Broncos plus 7.5. That's my biggest regret of the weekend. I said it on here. I said I had that feeling. I was like, I am not going. We'll talk about it, but that is my biggest regret. So go ahead with your picks, and then we'll talk about games real quick.
So I went 1-1 thus far on the weekend. I had $951,750 before Sunday, and now I'm up to $972,951.70. I lost my parlay of Steelers -1.5 and Chiefs money line, but I won Cowboys money line, parlayed with CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, and then I also have Titans money line for tonight. So if I win that Titans bet, I'll be I'll be just under $1 million.
You need to get back up over that. But hey, we're in a good place. Let's just I'm gonna read these games off and let me know. Let me know which ones you want to talk about. Do you want to talk about Cowboys Giants? Malik Neighbors is really good, FYI. Good for him. The Cowboys, I don't know if I would say that I'm worried about them, but definitely interesting the way they've been playing football lately. And they also lost Micah and Lawrence on the defensive side of the football. And it feels like this is the hardest stretch of football for them coming up. So just something to monitor. But ultimately, I think the Cowboys will probably still be okay, but we'll see.
Yeah, I thought Dak looked pretty good in this game. 22 for 27, 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. I thought the offense looked a little better, but still somehow the Giants hung around. I think obviously not having Micah Parsons is going to be a concern moving forward. But the Giants had a legitimate chance in this game, but only scoring, if you can only kick field goals, it's tough to win that way.
100%. Next game, Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers. If you watch the first half of this game, it was the worst game of all time. And you were like, oh man, the Vikings are wagging. And then Jordan Love randomly woke up and started doing his thing. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. Crazy.
So remember last week when I said, if Jordan Love starts this game, the Packers will lose?
Yeah.
I said that. But I want that on record.
No, you said that you would have liked the Packers more if Malik Willis was playing. And let's just call a spade a spade. There is no shot.
I literally said that.
But there's no shot Malik Willis is putting up 29 points. I mean, like I said,
Malik Willis also isn't throwing 3 picks.
It took Jordan Love a lot to warm up. But once he did,
to wake up.
Once he did, he was locked in. He threw the ball 54 times. Great situation. I do have a question for you because somebody said something to me ridiculous. Said something about Jaden Daniels is obviously sparking a lot of conversation. And he was like, is he an elite quarterback? And I was like, elite, like he's had 2 good offensive games in his entire career in the NFL.
Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
Somebody asked you that?
Yeah. And then
what are we doing?
From there, stop. Listen to this. It gets worse. Then from there, I was like, you overreact. He's like, I'm not overreacting. And I was like, okay, so would we sit here and call Sam Darnold a top 10 quarterback after his first 4 games of the season? He goes, if he wins a playoff game this year, absolutely. I said, it doesn't matter if Sam Darnold wins a playoff game this year. I would need to see Sam Darnold perform at this level for this whole season and next season for a prolonged period of time before I would ever put him in any top 10 conversations, because we have 5 years of film of him being absolutely mediocre. Is that a crazy take on my end?
I mean, I think if Sam Darnold like wins a playoff game, you could say he's like top 10 for the season. I think that's fair, but that's a lot
No.
different
Like
than
top 10 quarterback list, like the top 10 quarterbacks that you would list off as like being like elite, like the top
oh
10 list
no,
that I put out like before the season started.
no,
Yeah.
no. I don't think that that's a crazy take on your end at all.
Okay.
You're right. We've seen Sam Darnold for what, this is year 7,
I don't
and
know.
we we haven't seen him play like this ever.
Ever.
So I don't understand how one like I said this earlier in the year in like the off season. In order for you to be like a legitimate top 10 quarterback, I think you need to play at X amount of high level for more than one season. And I said this, I was like, I think we might be too quick to claim people as top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, I understand you have to have 10 because there's more than 10 quarterbacks. So somebody's automatically going to fit the list. But if there's a guy like Sam Darnold, for instance, or Geno Smith, like I can't put those guys in my top 10 after seeing all of their backstory up until this point and them only playing like one legitimately well put together season of football.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I just think that, and like I said, I said this to we can talk about the Cardinals Washington Commanders as like as an add-on to this, but obviously Jaden Daniels played really well. He was like, is Cliff Kingsbury a really great play caller, or is Jaden Daniels an elite quarterback? And I said, I don't think it's either. I think that Jaden Daniels is playing really good football. But what sticks out to me is that the Washington Commanders are one of the best teams at running the football in the entire NFL. They have a great quarterback with that is a threat on the ground, and Brian Robinson Jr. is literally playing like high end
football
running
of his entire
yeah.
career.
And I think
regardless of college.
And I think Cliff Kingsbury has like a really good scheme together for the run right now. With that being said, I said he was like, well, how are you going to say that like the run game's elite, but like the passing game isn't? It's like, because completing 89% plus of your passes with no interceptions or no turnovers is not sustainable. Having a good ground game throughout the entire course of the season is extremely sustainable. So I just said, like, I don't think either of those of what he asked at that time was the answer. I just think that as of right now, the Commanders are playing very good offensive football, and there's really no other way to put it. And I think what it really stems from is their ground game is actually elite.
Like I don't understand why everybody has to jump to the is this person elite like so quickly in everyone's career. I mean, why can't they both just be like pretty good right now? Like, why does everything have to automatically go to, oh, is this person elite? Oh, is this coach elite? Like, it doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to be that way. Like, they can just be playing really good football right now. Like, there's also 4 games of film on Jaden Daniels. This could easily switch week 10, and okay, teams have a better idea as to how to play them on defense. That is going to take away some of the things that Jaden Daniels does really well, which is running the football. I think he does a good job of spreading the football out from an offensive perspective. I think he's very efficient. But if you were to tell me that in week 10, he's completing 89% of his passes, I would call you a liar.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said it's closer to like both of those things that he asked are closer to like the middle, because we know who Cliff Kingsbury is as a coordinator. We watched it play out already. And Jaden Daniels, he like Bo said, if Jaden Daniels wins a playoff, and that's where this came into. Jaden Daniels wins a playoff game this year, he's a top 10 quarterback. I'm like, he's not. And he was like, but you put CJ Stroud on your list. I said, yes, I did put CJ Stroud on my list. But what CJ Stroud did, and we see it going into year 2, even though that they're struggling and they have a bad offensive line, is his traits and what he's really good at are sustainable for a long, like CJ Stroud's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL for a decade. Like Jaden Daniels might be a good quarterback in the league for 3 years because there are multiple versions of him that have not lasted in the NFL. So that's where I'm just like, yes, you can be picky and choosy, but like also there is a very clear model that works in the NFL that we've seen for 20 plus years where there's a form of quarterback that will win playoff games, that will be successful during the regular season. And CJ Stroud has that. So that's kind of why CJ Stroud will be in my top 10 after 1 year, after winning one playoff game, compared to like a Jaden Daniels if he goes in year one and wins a playoff game, is just who I'm looking at as the model quarterback. I look at CJ Stroud more somebody who I would build my team around than Jaden Daniels. It's more sustainable.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is closer to the Lamar Jackson than he is to the CJ Stroud form of quarterback. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we've seen the playoff success that Lamar Jackson has had, and it hasn't been what we would hope from somebody that's won 2 MVPs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also pretty sure that thus far through 4 games, CJ Stroud's numbers are almost the same as what they were his rookie year through 4 games.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw that.
All right. With that being said, the Commanders absolutely shit stomped the Cardinals. It was just a weird game. The Cardinals came out. The Cardinals need to, something that sticks out to me with the way that the Cardinals managed their games, and they did it twice. They did it against the Bills and they did it against the Commanders. It's the second quarter. You're driving down, you're in field goal range. You have Prater who can nail 60, and you go for it on 4th and 2, and you get stopped. You give your opponent the ball at your 40-yard line, but a very realistic opportunity for them to get into field goal range. They've done it multiple times and let the opponent score, allowing them to get points right at the end of half and then kicking the ball off to them at the beginning of the second half. And the Cardinals went for it on 4th and 2, got stuffed. The Commanders then went down, got into field goal range, nailed the field goal, got the ball at the second half, scored a touchdown. So instead of it being 10-17, it's
17-7. Instead of it being 14-7, it was 17-7.
It would have been
half, and the Commanders got the ball back.
Yeah, so it would have been 10-7 at half. Instead, it was 17-7, and then from there, it was over. Like, so it was something that really, and this goes to a lot with a lot of these teams that you're starting to notice little blips, and it's the same things with the Eagles as well. Little blips in decision making where you're not taking points, or you're being too aggressive, or it's just not the right time to be aggressive, is really backfiring on these teams. And once it happens, it starts snowballing. Like the Cardinals weren't even in a bad spot. It was just like once that happened, it was like, okay, like this game's over. Like you didn't capitalize on a turnover, and then you went for it on 4th and 2. You didn't take the points, and the game's over at that point. They never stood a chance. So I just think that's definitely something to keep your eye out on. And then as for the Commanders, they're playing really good football. They're the first in the NFC East. They're 3-1. Jane Daniels playing a real high level. I just don't know like what's real and what's not at this point with a lot of these teams. I don't think that that's like a lazy way of saying anything. It's just I really don't know like what's real and what's not. I think that that's fair.
Yeah, I honestly feel like everybody is either like everybody sucks and there's like 3 good teams in the NFL right now.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's insane. And like looking at this, the Commanders' 3 wins are Giants, Bengals, and Cardinals. So I don't know if
defenses.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Like
all
I think
bad defenses.
Yeah. So
all bad D's, bro.
Coming up, they've got Browns, Ravens, Panthers. So we could see them take a come back to earth here in these next couple weeks playing against better defenses. But is there any concern about the Cardinals defense for you moving forward?
No, not really. I just think that I just think that they're going to struggle sometimes and other times be fine. I don't think there's really much to it. That's what happens when you don't have a bunch of dudes on your defensive line and in the defense in general. Honestly, I, it's all circumstantial. So like you look at what happened in that game. It's really easy to look at the score. Like I don't watch every game in depth, but so I might be doing this with other games. But it's really easy to look at the score and be like, oh man, they got the shit kicked out of them. But like I said, that situation that happened at the end of half, and then you open up the half and it's 3rd and long, and Sean Murphy Bunting rips a guy on the 1 yard line for absolutely no reason. They get the ball on the one, punch it in. It's 24-7. Like, and they were about to punt the ball away. So
yeah.
it's so like think about that. Think about if they took the field goal at half, pinned the Commanders deep. They got the ball at half. They punted it away. Or Sean Murphy Bunting doesn't get that pass interference call on the 1 yard line and then punch it in to go up 3 scores. Like we're having a completely different conversation. So it's all circumstantial. That I was more disheartened by the offense, and that happens with the Cardinals, like where it's just like
it stalls, and it can be really frustrating sometimes because we've seen how good the offense can be, and then you go out there against the defense in Washington that the Cardinals are a clearly better offensive team than the Commanders are defense, and just something isn't clicking. I think you made a good point because yes, we see the score in 42-14 doesn't look great, but a lot of times is what happens in these second halves is teams that are down by 2 touchdowns have to become more aggressive in order to get back into the football game. And so you're going for it maybe on your 47-yard line and you don't get it on 4th down. And then basically what happened at the half, you don't get it. And then, okay, the Commanders have a short field. And as long as they don't have stupid penalties or go backwards, then like they're in a good spot to put more points on the board. And it's even tougher for a team with a defense that isn't great to consistently be out there and try to bail out an offense.
Definitely. All right, we have 15 minutes to the game starts, so I might fly through these a little bit. Jacksonville at Houston. Houston did their best to give this game away, but Jacksonville is so bad. It's crazy. So bad, and then I sent you the clip of the reporter asking Doug Peterson if his job was at stake, and he acted like that was the craziest thing that he's ever heard in his entire life.
These coaches are just so oblivious. Like you're 0-4 and you haven't looked good at any point in the season. You blew a game against the Dolphins you should have won. And then you go out and you blow this game. Like, what are you expecting these media people to ask you if you are a head coach that has already had a letdown second half to your season last year to come out here and start 0-4?
Yeah. Right with you.
What kind of question? Like, what do you think these guys in the media are going to ask? Hey, man, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Yeah. No, it's bad. It's real bad. On the flip side of things, Houston's offensive line's brutal. And I think that that's going to be something to definitely note as we watch the season progress, etc. They really need to figure that out. And I don't think that they're going to, unfortunately, during this season.
The good news for them is the rest of their division is not great. So
true.
They probably will be okay from that standpoint. But as far as being a legitimate Super Bowl contender, they have to figure that out.
Next game, New Orleans Saints at the Falcons. The Falcons really just pulled by the skin of their teeth. Again, the Falcons offense didn't look good. They get a defensive touchdown. They get a punt block or muff punt. I mean,
there was like 90 muff punts in this game.
Yeah. So it just obviously, if Taysom Hill just didn't get ruled out of this game in the second half, the Falcons might have lost by 90.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, Taysom Hill comes back and it's just 2 touchdowns automatic. I mean,
stupid.
I think he might be one of my least favorite players in the NFL.
Well, it's because you don't like Mormons. Next game, the LA Rams at the Chicago Bears. I mean, the Chicago got people will downplay this win for Chicago. Like, you have to give them credit. They beat the Rams. I don't care how beat up they are. If you can beat Sean McVay, like, it matters. I mean, the Rams just went out and beat the 49ers last week. So real quality win for the Bears. And I think that's a big step in the right direction for them. I was really happy to see that.
You see who had a big game?
DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift.
Makes no sense.
Literally 93 yards a tutty and then a receiving touchdown. So 72 yards receiving and a touchdown.
I don't know. Don't know.
I thought Caleb Williams looked better this game. That Bears defense is nasty. They're nasty. Jaquan Brisker was literally all over the field.
Next game, Cincinnati Bengals at Carolina. I'm still worried about the Bengals, man. This game, the final score is 34-24. And if it was any other team in the NFL, they would have lost this game. 100%. So giving up 24 points to the Panthers is just like a really bad look. Again, I'm just worried about this Bengals football team pretty much defensively. Offensively, they're clearly clicking. They're clearly going to be able to throw the ball, but defensively, they're going to be in shootouts every week. And if the offense is not clicking the way that they should, I could see them losing a lot of football games that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I thought they ran the ball a little bit better today too. I thought Joe Burrow he had that really weird decision on that interception where he tried to throw it like all the way back across the field.
So I saw a breakdown on that on Twitter. I think it might have been Orlovsky, honestly. He did a breakdown and showed that he wanted Jamar to go that way and instead
back to his side.
Yeah, and instead he went the other way and he threw it, and like that's why he was like, that was like the decision where Jamar, like he thought him and Jamar were on the same page and they weren't. Jamar went one way, he threw it the other. So that's what I saw, and watching it I was like, oh, okay.
That's makes much more sense, because if that wasn't the case, that's a very, very uncharacteristic throw from Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Bengals defense is definitely, there's definitely room for concern there. 24 points by the Panthers. I mean, Andy Dalton, at least in the first half, it felt like Andy Dalton was pretty much just slinging it all over the place on them. I think they hunkered down a little bit in the second half, but yeah, that's no good.
Next game, Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. It was pouring rain. It was disgusting. It was bad. It was
Broncos football.
It was Broncos football. First thing, congrats Brady on the big win, 10-9. The second thing, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are the most disappointing skill players in the entire NFL this year.
It's been frustrating.
I thought they would take a massive step forward. I mean, they were making explosive plays with the worst quarterback in the NFL. So I definitely thought that they'd be able to do something. Is Breece Hall, like, this is something that Simmons said today, and I noticed it too. Like, is Breece Hall losing his job to Braylon Allen?
It seems like these last couple weeks, like, even though Breece Hall didn't look good today or Sunday, but even the last 2 weeks, you've started to see Braylon Allen like creep up there with carries, with targets, with just like being in the game more. And that is concerning to somebody that has Breece Hall as one of his running backs.
It's weird.
I would have never guessed that it would have ended up turning into a split backfield. But I mean, right now it's like on Sunday, Breece Hall had 10 carries and Braylon Allen had 8. And then Breece had 2 catches. And I mean, he's getting more targets than Braylon Allen because he's definitely a better receiving back, but
it's weird.
In a alternate universe, like, is Braylon Allen the starting running back for the Jets?
Probably. And the other thing that I want to point out is after the game, at the press conference, Saleh said something about the cadence, and then Rodgers was like, yeah, that's one way we do it, or we can actually hold guys accountable. They hate each other.
I respect that answer.
They hate each other, but ultimately, I thought that was like like Rodgers can get pinned as a dick a lot of the time. That was a real ass statement by him. I respected it, and honestly, I think Saleh needed to hear it more than anybody because he's soft. And I just think Rodgers was just like, Yeah, like that. If that is your reasoning for like why things aren't working, like you are just like dumb, pretty much. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he described it as an outlier, and I mean, I couldn't agree more. Aaron Rodgers has been doing that hard count his entire career. He's one of the best at it. Um, and naturally, like you're in a game against the Broncos that you probably didn't expect yourself to be in. It's raining.
for
Nobody
sure.
wants to be out there. You just lose focus. So like things like that happen. So I would have handled it exactly like Aaron Rodgers did in this situation. It's a, hey, we need to be more focused next week. We can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot because this is something that will actually give us an advantage because I'm really fucking good at it. So Robert Saleh, don't be a bitch.
Seriously. Next game, New England 49ers. I don't have anything on this. Speaks for itself.
Me neither.
Raiders Browns, don't have anything on this game. That was a shit show. Unless if you have anything. I just don't really care about either of those teams. I think they're kind of both irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad for my over 6.5 bet that the Raiders made up for it with this one. So they're on pace, but yeah, I don't know. They're just
Next
neither
game.
one of these teams are fun to watch.
Next game. Chiefs Chargers. I would love to talk about this game. I think Herbert is in purgatory. I feel bad for him. I think they're on bye this week. I think some things are going to get figured out. I think he's going to rest his ankle.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway from this game is Mahomes is an absolute idiot. And if any other, like, imagine if like Justin Fields did that to like George Pickens or something like that. Like, people would be like literally calling for his neck. Like, Mahomes threw probably one of the worst picks I've ever seen in my entire life, and then was running down the field, flailing his arms, not looking where he was going, and crashed into Rashee Rice and ended his season. One, I have Rashee Rice in fantasy. That hurt really bad. And two, I hate Mahomes so much. And to have to watch that happen, I was like, I hate this guy. Like, I literally hate Mahomes with all my heart.
The only bright spot of watching the Chiefs was like actually watching Rashee Rice play wide receiver, and he took that from us.
What's wrong with that?
Now we have to watch Travis Kelce get 15 targets a game and Taylor Swift work on the sidelines even more.
I am out. With that being said, I am out on this Chiefs team. They don't have Isaiah Pacheco. They don't have Hollywood Brown. They don't have Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy wasn't somebody who they panned out, who they thought he was going to be. This team is bad. I don't care. I will bet against them every single week for the rest of the year. They're not a good football team. They're not three-peating. I don't care what anybody. I know that they're 4-0. You're not three-peating with this team. It's bad. It's worse than the team that they had last year. So I'm out on the Chiefs. Fuck Patrick Mahomes. And the fact that he hurt Rashee Rice is like
sickening.
If it was any other, like, imagine if like Zach Wilson did that to like Garrett Wilson last year. Like, his head, like, he might have gotten hung in New York.
They would have been rioting outside of the stadium.
Yeah. So that was, I gotta move on. I can't. The last game was the Ravens and the Bills. And I listened to Warren Sharp talk about this game, and I thought it was really interesting. He was like, the teams the Bills have played thus far, their strong suits on offense attacked the Bills' strong suits on defense. What the Ravens' strong suits are,
running the football down your throat with Derrick Henry,
is attack the weaknesses of the Bills' defense. If it was that simple, what was everybody doing the first 3 weeks of the season?
Yeah, so, I don't think it is like, that simple.
So like, I always get so confused when that shit, like when stuff like that gets brought up, but like, whatever. So apparently that's how you beat the Bills, and we'll see if that's a blueprint that's laid for the rest of the season. But the Ravens absolutely smoked the Bills. Their defense looked really good. Their defense looked fast. Their offense looked really good. Their offense looked fast, and they look like Alabama playing, I don't know, fucking UCF.
Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, like they just look bigger, faster, stronger than everybody else out on the field, and it was impressive. I really like them.
It's always, oh, this is the blueprint, and it could be that the blueprint is you bring in a 6'3", 250-pound running back, and that's just so happens to be one of the best in the NFL and have success. But it could also just be that the Ravens are a pretty good team.
But
like
time out. What did I say before the season started?
You said that Derrick Henry would what? I don't remember.
I said that was one of the most important signings of the offseason. You said Derrick Henry was washed.
I said he might be.
But what do you think now through the first 4 weeks of the season? Like, that was the fact that more people weren't all over Derrick Henry trying to get him in the building was crazy.
Listen, we both can't agree on everything. So that was one that I was like, okay, I have to find a different slant here, because I picked Derrick Henry in fantasy and he's been incredible. So yeah, I agree. I don't understand why more teams weren't trying to get him in the building, i.e. the Dallas Cowboys. But looking back, like looking at them at their build now, like I don't know if they would have been able to pay everybody in Dallas. But ultimately it's been a great signing
they could have paid everybody in Dallas.
Fair. I'm just trying to give them benefit of the doubt.
No.
But Derrick Henry's been great thus far. Even though the Ravens started 0-2, there was not a single bit of worry for me. They're just a good football team. And as long as you have Lamar out there, you'll be just fine.
All right, real quick. Titans, Dolphins, not much to talk about that game. Me and you both have $100,000 on the Titans. Well, I do. I don't know how much you have. I think the Titans will win. Not much to say. Seahawks, Lions, though.
Is Tyler Hunt? I believe Tyler Huntley's starting for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Do you want to talk about it now?
No, I just wanted to confirm.
Next game we have starts at 8:15, and it's probably the marquee game of the week, is the Seattle Seahawks and Lions. The only thing that sucks is that there's injuries for both sides of the football of this team. The Seahawks are missing majority of their defensive line, but something that is of note was when the Lions went into Baltimore last year and played the Mike McDonald Ravens defense, Jared Goff was in piss the entire game. I am looking for something similar to that tonight. I think that if they run the football, I think that they're going to run the football effectively. Obviously, they always do. But that isn't the problem. The problem is in the second half, the Detroit Lions just for some reason can't do anything. And a lot of that has to do with Jared Goff. And I think Mike McDonald has the Jared Goff blueprint. And I am looking for Seattle to win this game tonight.
If I'm the Lions, I turn around and I hand the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs 20 times and then David Montgomery 20 times. Yeah. And I let Jared Goff throw the ball 20 times. That is the blueprint for a Lions victory. Their offensive line is more dominant than this beat up Seahawks defensive line. Don't make it more difficult than it needs to be if you are the Detroit Lions. But with that being said, they probably will make it more difficult than it needs to be. I think this game's going to be a lot of fun. I'm interested to see this Seahawks wide receiving core match up against this new and young Detroit Lions secondary. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, the Will Levis show is starting, so I got to go.
Will Levis show is about to be on any minute. What
are we
getting a meme? Do we get a meme from him?
They already got they already got a penalty. They already have a false start.
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
But yes, we do get a meme tonight.
Okay. Over under a half meme.
It's like minus 155.
All right.
See ya.
All right, go Birds.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it kick up. Highlight of my my life, man, a tragedy.